I'm Chloe Menage, and I was absolutely thrilled when my good friend Jill Wiseman invited me to share one of my beading tutorials with you guys on her YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the aptly named Jilly Blooms project, and I'm going to be showing you how to create these really pretty flowers using check glass beads and lots of bright colours. So for me, I'm a big fan of bright colours. I also love using shaped beads. So we're going to be combining all of those today, and we're going to be working with Ginkos and SuperDuo beads along with seed beads in 3 sizes, and I'm going to show you how to create these blooms in 2 different sizes. They're fantastic components because they make great earrings, necklaces, bracelets. Really, the world is your oyster. So should we get started?
So as you can see, there's lots of variations for this project. We can start with the basic central motif, which you can then add some embellishment to, or go even further and have even more embellishment. So there's lots of different options for the main component. And then you've got the small components. These are really cute. They make lovely little earrings or a dainty pendant on its own. And then of course you can go further and turn it into a statement necklace. So let's get started. So what are you going to need for this project? Well, for the large motif, you're going to be needing some Ginkos, 4mm bicones, 4mm round glass beads or pearls, size 11 seed beads, size 15 seed beads, size 8 seed beads, you just need a couple of these, and some SuperDuos. So for this sample, I'm going to be using this one for the instructions because it's nice and bright and all the colours are very contrasting. So it's going to make it much easier for you to see what I'm doing. For this one, I use these lovely lemon yellow SuperDuos. As you can see, I haven't quite got enough for the rest of the project, so I'm going to use these lovely opaque turquoise ones, which I think also is going to look really cool in this colourway. And I'm just using 1G thread. You can use any beading thread that you choose, but I personally like to work with the softer threads like 1G. We're going to cut an arm span of thread, and I like to wax my thread well by running it through my beading wax. And we're going to let's start with the small motif because I think that's a nice one to get to grips with, especially if you've not worked with 2-hole beads before. It's a nice way to get started. So we're going to begin by picking up a size 15 bead and a SuperDuo bead, and you're going to do this 5 times. Once you've got all those on your thread, you're going to pull those down to near the end, leave yourself a working tail thread. We don't need too much, but maybe about 10 centimetres. For these ones, it's mainly just enough to weave in at the end. And we're going to tie that in a knot. So once you have everything in a loop, we're going to just pass through all of those beads again. And that helps reinforce this central ring and keeps it nice and strong. Once you get back to the beginning again, we're going to pass through a couple of beads just to get away from that knot. That makes it much easier to work with. And then we're going to step up, and that means passing into the SuperDuo that you're coming out of into the top hole. So it turns the direction, changes the direction, and we start to work back the other direction. So you'll get a small loop of thread just next to between the bead holes there. And now we're going to pick up a Ginko. And this time with the Ginkos, we're working with them from this way upwards, so from the narrow end up to the outside. So I'm going to pass through one of those holes. At this point, it doesn't really matter which one. Obviously, if you've got Ginkos with a decoration that's more on one side, then you're going to need to bear that in mind. We're going to then pick up 5 of the size 15 beads and pass down into the second hole, and then into the second hole of the next SuperDuo around. Pull that nice and snug, and this is what you're going to start to get. So we're going to repeat that all the way around. So a Ginko, 5 size 15s, So it is worth just checking with your Ginko. Some of them are exactly the same shape and size shape on both sides. These ones, having said that it doesn't matter, I found these ones do have a slightly rounder side on one side. It doesn't really matter, but if you're really paying attention to detail, then you may want to just bear that in mind. But it will depend on the style of Ginkos that you've bought. Not all of them have that difference to them. So I've got a Ginko and 5 beads again, and you can see I'm just going through that second hole and into the SuperDuo. Pull that snug, and there may be a little bit of gapping at this point. Don't worry, that's all going to come out in the wash later on. And the last one. I'm going to go through that SuperDuo to finish up the round. Make sure your thread doesn't get caught, and then I'm going to go up through the SuperDuo, up through the Ginko. Make sure that tail thread's not getting caught around anything. And there we go, that's where you should be at so far. And now we're going to add some embellishment to just tie in those ends. So we're going to pass through those 5 beads across the top. And we're going to pick up 2 size 11s and 2 size 15s. I'm going to go through this SuperDuo here, and this is where we'll start to hide some of that thread that might be showing. I'm going to go back through the last size 15 that I picked up. So I've gone back through the last 15 that I just picked up. I'm going to pick up 1 more size 15 and 2 more size 11s. I'm going to go through that next set of size 15s across the next Ginko, and you'll see that you've got a nice little pattern that's started to emerge there. So go through all those 15s, and then we're going to repeat this again. So we're picking up 2 11s and 2 15s, going through the next SuperDuo, go back through the last 15 only, pull snug and pick up 1 15 and 2 11s, and repeat that all the way around. And that's the last one there, and you can see you've got that pretty flower shape come together. So the final bit we need to do is we're going to work through and exit from the very first of the size 11s, and now we're going to add the little bicone decoration in between. So we're going to pick up a size 11, a bicone and another size 11, and go through the second size 11 in the next set, and through that set of 5 15s at the top as well, and then pass through the very first 11 in the next set. So we're going to repeat that again. We're picking up 1 11, 1 bicone and 1 11, and we're going to go through that next set. So you're just going to do that all the way around. And you can see how that's starting to create a pretty picture. And actually I'm really enjoying it. I know they weren't the ones I intended to use, but the turquoise I think worked really well in the middle there. And you can really have fun with this one, just really experiment with colours and go wild. There are so many different colours of Ginkos and SuperDuos. You just have to have a really good look around Jill Wiseman website, and you'll see there are so many different colours to choose from, that you can literally, the world is your oyster when it comes to colours and variations for this project. So all the way around, there we go. Got one more to do after this one. And you can see just how quick and easy these are as little motifs. There's so many things you can do with them as well. Earrings, pendants, you could join lots of them and make a bracelet. so many little things you could do with these cute little motifs. So there we have it, that's one of them done. What we're going to do is just weave this tail thread in around here and then weave it through some more beads, and I'll trim that. And I'll just show you an idea of what you could do with these as earrings. So I made these ones as a Mother's Day present for my mum, and just playing with different variations of colours there. And I've used a wire guardian at the top just around the bicone, and just passed around that a few times before reinforcing it around the outside, and they make a really cute pair of earrings just all by themselves. But if you are going to use this as part of the statement necklace, weave your tail thread in and leave your working thread attached, because we might use that later. It's always handy to have it just in case. I do recommend reinforcing this outer row. We're working with crystals, and although there's not too much wear of the crystal on the thread because of the way we've attached them, it's still worth just giving that an extra reinforce around the outside. So for the large motif, as I mentioned, you've got several different options for variations here. Let's work with a wingspan of thread, and I'm going to wax my thread really well. It's possible to add in extra thread, so if you do find it more comfortable to work with a smaller length of thread, absolutely go for that. You've got to do what's most comfortable for you. And yeah, but I'm going to work with a wingspan of thread here, and I'm going to start off with, we're going to be using the SuperDuos again. This time we're going to be bringing in the druks or pearls and the size 8 beads, and this one has a count of 6 in the middle, whereas these guys have a count of 5. So we're going to start by picking up one SuperDuo and one size 11 seed bead, and we're going to do that 6 times. And don't forget, if you like the colourways you're seeing here, you can find all of my list of beads used in the pattern PDF, which is a free pattern, and it's available on the Jill Wiseman Designs website. And you're also going to find some great kits for some of my colourways as well, available on the Jill Wiseman website too. So do go and check those out. So we're going to add 6 of these. I've got 5, let's keep going, and 6. And as we did before, got seed beads everywhere here, look at this. As we did before, we're going to join these into a ring. So I'm leaving a little bit more of a tail thread this time, just about 10 centimetres, just to make sure we've got enough to play with. We might need it later on for doing the embellishment, we might not. I think it's handy to have a little bit though. So we're going to tie a double knot on that one. I know there's some disagreement on knots in beadwork, but because of the centerpiece of this holding a lot of the tension to start off with, and there's not a lot of work to work through, we're going to do that a little knot, and it just keeps everything nice and secure. So I've done my knot, and I'm going to pass through all of those beads again. So once you've passed through all of those beads again, we're going to pass through a couple of beads to get away from the knot, and then we're going to step up through the second hole of that SuperDuo like we did before. And now we're going to pick up a 4mm druk or pearl and pass through the second hole of the next SuperDuo around. Nice and easy still. And we're going to repeat that all the way around, so we're just adding a 4mm bead in between each SuperDuo bead in that ring. And then pass through the first SuperDuo and the 4mm when you get back to the beginning again, and that's what that looks like. I'm really enjoying those colours, they look really nice. And then we are going to pick up our next row of SuperDuos. So we are going to pick up one SuperDuo, one of the size 11s, and another SuperDuo. We're going to go through the next 4mm around, and we're just going to add little trio of beads like that all the way around. SuperDuo first, then the size 11, then the SuperDuo, and go through the next 4mm. And that makes a really cute little pattern. I actually think that looks nice as a little pendant as well. So once you get back to the beginning, we're going to pass through the first SuperDuo that we added in the round, like this. And then we're going to step up through this guy here. So it's going to change our direction again. And now we're going to add size 8s between these ones that are leaning inwards. So I'm going to pick up a size 8, go through the next SuperDuo. So these size 8s are going to sit directly above the 4mm rounds. So if you're not sure where you are or where you should be adding the size 8, just remember it's between, the size 8 will sit directly above the 4mm round. So now we're going to pick up one size 15 and then one of the Ginkos, and these Ginkos again are going to sit facing down like that, like with the pointed side paint facing down. So I'm going to pick up one of the 15s and go up from the thin end to the outside. Then I'm going to pick up 4 size 11s, go down, pick up one more 15 and go into the next SuperDuo. So this little Ginko is going to sit in that pretty little cup shape that we've created with the SuperDuos, as you can see there, and the size 15s just help lift it up a bit more. Okay, so we're going to repeat that around. So we're picking up an 8 and going through the next SuperDuo, then picking up a 15 and a Ginko, 4 size 11s, and going back through the Ginko. One more size 15 and down through that next SuperDuo. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. So once you've got back to the beginning, we're going to pass through the SuperDuo and the next size 8 and pull that nice and snug. And you can see it's quite a pretty piece just on its own like that, but it's a little bit floppy. So we're now going to be adding little sections of seed beads around this edge to really reinforce that and pull it together into a more stable shape. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to come out of that size 8 and we're going to pick up 5 size 11 seed beads. Pass through these 4 size 11s on the top of the Ginko. Careful not to get your thread caught around any of those sneaky sections. And we're going to pick up 5 more size 11s. And go through the next size 8, and you're going to repeat that around. So once you're back to the beginning again, you'll see you've got a bit more of a floral motif going on there, but you know, it's not anything quite special and it's still slightly floppy. So I think just to finish this off, we're going to add these 4mm in, and you'll really see the difference in the design. It'll be much stiffer and it'll just look really fancy and finished. So I'm going to weave around from these size 11 beads, and we are going to, let me just grab the other sample and I'll show you what we're doing. So we're going to create these little sections in between. So we're going through the first 12 of these size 11s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And the way you can tell that is it's basically 2 up from the bottom. So when you're at the inner bit between the 2 petals, you're coming up from this third bead up basically. So you count 2 up and go through the third one on the inner edge. There we go. We are then going to pick up 1 4mm bicone and go through the next one around. So we're going into the third bead up on the other side. Keeps wanting to catch round today. There we go. And you can see how that's really stabilising it, and the bicone sits really nicely in that little V shape here. So you're going to just repeat that around. So you're going to pass all the way through and come out facing down, pointing down from the third bead in that section there. Third bead up, sorry, I should say. Picking up a bicone and going into the third bead up on the next one. And you're going to do that all the way around, and you can see how that immediately elevates the piece and really brings it all together. And there you have it. You can see that is much more stable and gives a really pretty pendant to work with. So just a few little tips for when you're creating these motifs. If you find that this is a bit of a squeeze, adding the beads in between, the size 11s, then you can just add fewer. So because different bead brands, different finishes can come up different sizes, and different tensions really affect that as well. So if you find that this is too much of a squeeze, adding the numbers that I've specified, for example 5 when we were filling in these gaps here, you could try using 4 if it feels too much of a squeeze. So don't be afraid to make adjustments, just as long as you do it the same all the way around. So if you reduce it by 1, make sure they're all the same. But yeah, there we go. So there's our finished motif, but we can still go further. We can add some embellishment if we want to. We can add 15s that sit above these bicones here, and we can add 15s over the front as well to really add some texture to it. So let me show you how to do that. So if we're going to add some embellishment to the top, so like these little caps over the tops of the bicones, we can do that. We're going to be exiting down from the 11th size 11 above here. So the way you can work that out, you can either count 11 round, or if you have a look at where your bicone is, you can see you've got 3 beads, and you're basically coming out the 4th one. And we're going to pick up enough size 15s to go over. So I found about 8 worked really nicely, and I liked having an even number. You could of course create a picot if you wanted to have an odd number. So I'm just going to pick those up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you can test them and see what works. As I was saying before, with the different seed bead sizes and shape, colours, different things come out different sizes. So you may need to add fewer, or you may need to add more to get the shape that you want. But I'm happy that that is the right number for me. And I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. So once you've added your edge embellishment, then you've got the opportunity to add a little bit extra on this central bit, just to really make it pop and give it a little bit more texture. So I'm going to weave through to exit from one of the 4mm. When you get to a SuperDuo, if you need to get down to the next level, you're just going to step down by passing into that second hole. Remember to follow the thread path for the rest of the beads and pull that snug. So I'm coming out of one of my 4mm. Now we're going to pick up 4 size 15s. And we're going to go into one of these size 8s, and what this is doing is we're going to create a little, almost like a V shape at the top here. So I'm going to go in from the same side that I'm coming out, so I'm kind of creating a circle shape. So I've picked up 4, gone through the 8, pick up 4 more, and go back through that 4mm. And that creates this little V shape, and that just really ties in the colour as well from that outer edge and pulls it down through the design. So now you're going to go through the next SuperDuo and the 4mm, and we're going to repeat that around. So we're going to pick up our 4, go through the size 8 from the side that you're exiting from, and repeat that around. Watch that tail thread. So you can see that that's really adding some texture. If you find that yours aren't fitting, again, you can add fewer or more beads. So you could add 3 or 5 and really play with that design. But now we're going to add these little tiny ones in the middle. So to do that, we're going to exit from the second hole of the SuperDuo. If your tail thread's getting on your nerves at this point, by the way, you can just weave that in. And we're going to pick up 2 size 15s and go through the single size 11 in the centre. Go back through that second seed bead added, like we did on the outside on the first motif. Pick up 1 more size 15, go through the second hole of the SuperDuo, and that just really helps add a little bit of interest and decoration into this central part. It ties everything in and just really makes it pop a little bit more. So I'll show you that one more time. So picking up 2 size 15s, go down through that size 11, back up through the second size 15 added, pick up 1 more and go through the SuperDuo. And you're going to repeat that all the way around until you get back to the beginning again. So now you've got your motifs, you are ready to turn them into some stunning jewellery. I'm going to show you how to make the statement necklace. So you're going to need 1 of the central motifs and 2 of the smaller motifs. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use that working thread that we left attached. You can weave in any tail threads so that they don't snag and get in the way. And then we're going to just add a little joining section of beads here to join these guys together. Let me just get my needle threaded up for you. Right, now we're going to add some 15s. As you can see here, I've joined them above the ginkgos. So I'm coming out of the small motif and I'm going to pick up enough beads. So for me, that's about 3 of the size 15s. And I'm going to join them to the 2 central beads above a ginkgo. So if you do your counting, you'll be able to find them. But you want the 2 central beads. So for me, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 either side, and that gives you your 2 central beads. So I've picked up 3 size 15s, gone through those 2 central beads, then I'm going to pick up 3 more, and I'm going to go back through that 4mm bead. And that's all it is to it. I'm just going to reinforce that though, because we want to make sure that's nice and secure. So I would do that several times, and then you're going to do exactly the same thing with your other little motif on the opposite side of the flower. And it's up to you exactly where on the large motif that you hang these between. So on this one, I wanted it to have a nice kind of smooth shape to it. You could obviously make more of a sharp V by attaching them to the next door one, or you could make it more of a flat shape and have it here, so it's directly opposite. But I went for it being, I skipped one and then added it to the one after to create a nice shape to it. So once you've done that, you can do the same on the other side, and then you've got the option to create a chain or attach a beaded rope, or even attach some metal chain of your own choice. So for this one, I've exited from the bicone, and again I skipped one and went into the one after. And I'll just show you how I created that chain, because it was really easy, and it was a nice little one to work on. And I'm not a big fan of beaded ropes. They're not something I use a lot, but I felt that this design needed a little bit of something beaded just to really pull it all in together. So once you've reinforced that section sufficiently, you're going to weave through to exit from the 4mm that you want to build your rope or your chain off of. So to finish it, we're going to add this beaded rope, which I just think adds a really pretty finish to it. You could add chain, or you could add a rope of your own design, but for something quick and easy, this is a really nice little mini rope. And we're going to use these Cymbal Elements Tila bead endings on the end, which means you can connect it to any necklace finding or clasp of your choice, and it just gives you a bit more flexibility and security as well. So we're going to weave through to exit from the 4mm, one away from where you've joined the two motifs. Obviously you can change where you have this depending on the shaping that you want, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to pick up 4 of these size 11s and 2 size 15s, and then 4 more size 11s. And I'm going to go back through that bicone, and that gives me a little connector to work off. And I'm just going to weave through those first 4 size 11s and the size 15. And now I'm going to pick up 5, you can have as many or as few as you want, 5 or 4, keep them the same all the way up, of the size 11s, 1 of the size, 2 of the size 15s, and then just repeat that all the way up until your chain is almost the length that you need it to be. Remember, you need to take into account the length or the space that your clasp takes up, and calculate that into the length that you want your strap to be. But you're going to just keep going. I'm just going to do a few here just for the purposes of the demo, just to show you how this works. So we're going to pick up 4 and then the 2, and then to finish we're going to go through the Tila connector, and as you can see it's sort of like a little tube. And then I'm going to pick up the same number again, so 2 more size 15s and 4 more of the 11s. And I'm going to go back down through the last 2 of these here that I added. So we're going back in the direction that we came now. Pull that nice and snug, and it will give you a really cute little, almost like a figure of 8 sort of motif. So now you're going to pick up 4 more of the 11s and go through the 2 size 15s. And you can see if you had a nice long rope how that would look as a really pretty section. And then when you get back to this guy here, you're just going to pass through the opposite 15, so the one that you didn't come out of the first time, and back down. And you can reinforce that connection by passing through the bicone. And there's no reason why you couldn't go back up the rope again and reinforce that again as well if you wanted to, just to keep it extra secure. So I'm going to just reinforce that bottom bit by going up through there and down, straight across down through the 15s and through those 11s again. And then you can just weave your thread into your work and trim. You want to make sure that's nice and snug and that you've got no thread showing. So I probably would want to just pull that a bit tighter, but you can see how that creates a really nice little link connection. So all that remains is to just use a jump ring and some pliers to attach your clasp of choice to the loop on the Tila bead ending, and your necklace is ready to wear.
Thanks for beading with me today. Don't forget you can find all the supplies needed to make this great pattern over on the Jill Wiseman Designs website, as well as kits and the PDF pattern. See you soon!